I think everyone would say that none of us expected this to be a difficult show. It's kind of a fun show. I remember when they picked it, I was like, that'll be fun. Like, it's not anything like so deep or crazy, and like that's totally come back to bite us all in the butts because it's so difficult. It's just definitely more than we all anticipated. I think everyone would agree to that.
We've heard that this is the highest selling show in the history of Minnetonka theater.
I was just mixing, doing what I always do, and all of a sudden the backing track completely cuts out. Totally silent. You don't hear anything at all.
So the audition process has changed recently because of COVID. We had online auditions, so basically you could sing any song you want, you recorded it, and you submitted it. And after doing that, a lot of the students went up to Trent and we were like, we really like being able to film your audition because there's a lot of comfort in being alone in your home and being able to do your audition while still being able to, do the callbacks and everything else in person. So Trent has let us keep video auditions, and then everyone has to go to an in-person dance call, and a lot of the dance calls isn't always necessarily for your dancing ability, but just to show off your personality, and if you're able to try new things, like maybe this is really out of your comfort zone, but here you are doing your best, like the directors will notice that. So after the dance call, a callback list comes out, and that's usually could be 4 people, could be 8 people per role that's called back, and you read for specific roles. There are also a bunch of scenes between characters to kind of do chemistry reads and to see how you do with new material. And they mix you around a lot, so maybe they like this Donna with this Sophie, but maybe now they wanted to change it and do a different Donna with a new Sophie, that kind of stuff, just to see where everyone fits into the puzzle. And this doesn't always happen, but for Mamma Mia, I think we had about 4 cuts where the groups just kept getting smaller and smaller to see who they wanted and who they didn't want. And yeah, it can be very stressful for sometimes, but it's an unfortunate, stressful part of the process that you have to do. So rehearsals can get kind of complicated. They're usually from 3 to 6 every day after school. Sometimes we have Saturday rehearsals from like 10 to 2. And I know when you first sign up for that, it can be very overwhelming, but you're not actually there every day from 3 to 6 after school. You're usually there from like maybe 3 to 6 on Monday and then 3 to 4 on Tuesday. It can be very split up depending on who you are in the show.
So I'm Jen Burley-Bentz, and I'm excited to be here at Minnetonka working on Mamma Mia. I actually was in Mamma Mia on Broadway over a 5-year time period. And I decided to help with Mamma Mia because Trent asked me to. but I'm a little bit of a no-brainer because I've done the show so many times since Broadway and have so much information about the characters and the back information that's not offered at all in the script. For one, Mamma Mia, the show, is it's very dense, and people don't understand really how big of a bite it is to chew until they're in the middle of it. And so having someone like me, an at-bat, if you will, for the actors and for creative too, to give a little bit of that extra oomph from the backstory just made a lot of sense to me. Plus I love Minnetonka, I love working with Trent and Jan and Jen, and so it was a no-brainer. I was thrilled to be here. One of the things that I find so interesting about working here with the school is that most of the kids that I've met have a lot of experience with theater, which is not always the case. And so it was such a joy to come in here and first of all have their energy and their excitement for the show and the DYNAMOS for their roles, but also the ability that they have. I don't mean to talk down, but to understand what I'm saying when I'm talking about adult stuff to teenagers. When they're 17 and they're playing an adult role of a mother, a woman, a wise woman of the world, a writer, someone who is a woman's press writer. what do 17-year-olds know about that? Well, these kids are so smart. They're so smart and they're so intuitive. They not only get it, but they would do it once and remember it, which I think is crazy. The sets and the costumes and the design of the show are not the easiest to find in our area. It's very beachy. We're in Minnesota. We have to create a dream world that is a Greek island. So we've got, some technical things there too that are a challenge, but the music is extremely dense. And the harmonies are extremely specific, and to get the clarity and the cleanliness of ABBA in Mamma Mia in a musical sense is just very difficult. A lot of companies cut harmonies, they cut parts, they'll have just a solo go out, you won't hear all the dig a chance, dig a chance, dig a chance. And that's something that a lot of companies can do, but this company is not. This company is doing the meat, they're doing the work, and that is difficult.
It wasn't really a decision whether or not to join Mamma Mia. It was kind of something that I just knew was, something I wanted to do. I've been in Minnetonka Theater since my fall freshman show, and I've been really lucky to continue to have that experience, and so this was kind of just another one of those shows that I'm excited to perform and be a part of, especially with it being a show like Mamma Mia. So I was very excited for the whole process of this show coming into this year, knowing that it was in our season for our spring musical.
I mean, part of the reason that I auditioned for the show is just because I've done shows with Minnetonka before that I've enjoyed, and I just kind of wanted to be part of more of that and just like hang out with friends and that kind of thing. But also I think like part of the reason that I personally like doing the show Mamma Mia is because like the music is kind of like a different style. Like in most musical theater stuff, it's like a certain timbre that you hear, but like with Mamma Mia, since it's ABBA music, it's music that's already been created, and so it has like more of that poppy feel, which I think is a lot of fun because that's the type of music that you like to sing in the car on the way to school or whatever. So it's kind of fun to be able to do that on stage.
I wanted to do Mamma Mia because I've been doing theater since second grade. I did it a bunch in middle school and in elementary school. And when I came to high school, I knew that the theater program here was awesome. I had to try out, and I've been doing the shows here as many as I could here that I could be allowed to audition for.
Well, for me, like, Minnetonka Theater is like my family. This is the activity that I put the most effort into. I just always have so much fun in all of these shows, and I just think, the caliber and like the technicality of all these shows that I've been coming to see since I was like a little middle schooler has always just blown me away. My like whole childhood, like growing up in Minnetonka school districts and seeing all of these plays and musicals have just made me so excited to like be a part of it. So by the time that I got to high school, I was like, I'm gonna do as many of these as I can. And then when they announced that they were doing Mamma Mia, I got super excited because like, even though I wasn't super familiar with the storyline, like the music is so iconic. Like it's so fun to be able to like present a musical where so many people are gonna know the songs. Everybody knows Dancing Queen, everybody knows Lay All Your Love. Like it's just such a fun time, and it's just like a big party where everyone just gets to kind of like de-stress and just enjoy a show for 2.5 hours, which I just think is so special. So getting the opportunity to be a part of that is something I just couldn't pass up.
I knew I would audition for Mamma Mia the minute that they announced it, because I kind of do all of the shows. I'm a senior, so it's my spring of my senior year, so Mamma Mia is really special in that way, that I could end it doing such a fun show. And I think it's fun that they picked the show. It has a lot of opportunities for a lot of different people to be different characters, and it has a really positive message, which is something we really need at this time. But yeah, I always do the show, so it was kind of a no-brainer for me.
My name is Stanley Geckner. I am a senior from the class of 2022, and for Mamma Mia, my position is as the soundboard operator. I am adjusting the balance between the microphones and the track throughout the entire show to make sure that everything sounds great. I think the reason I like working the soundboard is because there's always room to be improving. Because sound, there's so much complexity in it, Every show you can try something new, every show you can get better, so there is no perfect final state that you have to reach. You're always striving to do better and better. We use 30 wireless lapel microphones, which is about the same number as like a large Broadway show. The way the sound gets from the actor to our speakers, it starts with their microphone, which is on their forehead. Then their belt pack takes that signal and transmits it to antennas up here in the booth. Then those antennas go into our receivers for the microphones, which convert the signals and send them into the mix rack. And then after that, I can control all of those signals, amplify them, put effects on them here at the board, and then we send them off to the main speakers, which is how the audience hears the sound we're picking up.
It's always, I want to say entertaining is the word that I would use for working with Trent and Mark and Jenny and Lauren and all of our amazing directive team. They have such a vision. Like, there's always a vision, there's always something behind what they're telling you to do, and I feel so lucky that we get to work with such amazing creative and artistic people, especially in high school, and just to be able to have that department in our school is just something that I'm so grateful for. And every day that I come here, I'm just so excited to be able to work with these people who are so experienced and knowledged in theater and dance and music and all these different things that coincide with being in a show, and I have that experience as a high school student.
I feel like, at least with like Miss Jenny, I have like a lot of dancing going on in the show, and she's our choreographer, so I feel like I've developed more of like a personal relationship with her than I have with like previous directors in the past, because I've been like working with her more closely, and I feel like there's kind of like a degree of trust there, you know, like she'll ask me to like do certain things like on stage and like backstage, and she'll trust me to do it on my own, which is really nice. You know, as you know, like over the years working with the same directors, that's kind of what's nice about being in a high school show, is that you kind of get to know the staff that you're working with and sort of, you know, develop that more personal relationship with them.
Working with Mark has been awesome. He's really funny. I like learning from him. We go really fast in rehearsal, and I think he sets really high expectations for us. You know, when it comes down to tech week, if, you know, something's not working, he's gonna tell us. We're really kind of close-knit, the background vocalists are, and I think from this show we've really gotten to know Mark. In rehearsal he may seem very, you know, get to it. He really encourages us to be the best we can be, and, you know, I think he tells us if he thinks it's good, and he tells us if he thinks it's bad.
Working with Trent is so much fun, but it's also a lot of work. Trent is super high energy, he has so much feedback, and what I love the most is just the way that he really truly wants us to be our absolute best that we can. I really need somebody that's gonna push me past my limits to a point where I didn't even think I could go. And so having somebody like Trent who's not afraid to tell me and give me all these notes and tell me what needs to be better is just so wonderful. Like, I always look forward to coming to rehearsal and having like those kind of like smaller group and one-on-one conversations with him about just like character motivation, if I have any questions or concerns or just things I want to tweak. Like, I always feel like I'm able to talk to him and ask for his feedback, which I just think is so great. And I mean, I just think that he does such a good job about making all of these shows just so fantastic. Like, you know, working with Trent is like one of the most exciting things ever when you come to Minnetonka Theater, because he's the director. So I just think, like, for me, getting this opportunity that I haven't had in other shows to really work kind of with him in a smaller group setting has just been so exciting, because I've been able to really get that feedback and really kind of learn so much about acting and the experience. He always like gives us so many great little pieces of wisdom and advice. He shows us a lot of these like videos of other actors, which I think is so much fun. Just kind of hearing all of his stories and all of the things that he has to share about what it's like kind of like working in the acting industry and like what we could do with this like beyond high school, and while still like really teaching us kind of like all of the basics, and everything has just been so fun, because I mean, like, I've never really had that opportunity with other directors I've worked with, so it's been really exciting.
Anytime you get into tech, it's going to be difficult. Tech is never easy. I've never had an easy tech in my entire life. However, with a show like this, when you've got so many big numbers, you've got 60 people that you're wrangling throughout this whole show. The first act specifically is so dense with people, and the second act is not quite as difficult. But the first act is what we have to tech first. I can tell that tension is a little high because there's so much going into it. I mean, the additional offstage voices that we're using, the 60 people that we're sussing in and out through the set in the different scenes, it's a lot. It's a lot.
The most challenging part of like being like on stage in general is probably just like keeping the energy up of the show, because you know, originally you learn like your dancing and your lines and your singing all separately, and then when you're starting to like put them together, like it just takes like so much out of you. Like every time I walk off stage, like I find myself being out of breath, you know, like being like under the lights and like wearing, you know, layers of costumes, you know, you get like all sweaty and gross, and it's just like it can just feel like really overwhelming the first couple times you do it, especially during tech week, because you know it's late at night and you know you're stressing about other things already.
A lot of the shows here at Minnetonka are tricky. They're very competitive. It's a very competitive environment. And I think especially when it comes close to tech week, we all get very, you know, tired and cranky, and we're all friends, but like we might, you know, when it comes close to tech week, we might snap at our friends and we don't mean it. But it's tech week. We're tired. We're here. Some of us are here 15 hours a day.
You know, I'm just starting to figure out like how intense. I don't know, when you think of Mamma Mia, you don't think of the word intense, but this is a really like intense show to be a part of, in the fact that this is probably the least amount of downtime I've ever had doing a show. Since yesterday was our first dress rehearsal, I realized, okay, I only have this amount of time to get from this costume to another before I have to be backstage. As much as Trent would say, like, don't let the show sneak up on you, like it seems like it's just a fun show, it's not. It's funny because that's really the case. You think of Mamma Mia and you don't think of something so technical. It's just, yeah, it's definitely a show that I wasn't anticipating being this demanding.
It's not really the singing that's making me tired, but it's how much you have to give emotionally. I was saying to my mom the other day, it's funny, like, I sang Winner Takes It All super emotionally last night, and this morning I was in class taking a physics test.
You know, I really think that this show fools a lot of people, because you think Mamma Mia is like super fun, super high energy, super kind of like chill, laid back, but that's kind of like the audience's experience. For the actors, it's absolutely insane. There's people backstage running back and forth, changing into costumes, there's quick changes, there's all the makeup and hair changes, there's like trying to figure out what comes next, all that, so you really don't have time to sit down. I think I sit down once during intermission to get my hair done, and that's it in the whole show, which is crazy, and like I've never had to do that before in any other shows that I've been a part of. Trent always says that this show is a musical, but it's also a rock concert. It's also a drama. There's so many different elements, so trying to kind of figure out the balance of like what needs to be heightened in every scene. Like, should this scene be more dramatic? Should this scene be a little bit more laid back? Like, changing up the vocals for all the songs to kind of balance that like pop star sound with the more classical musical theater sound. Another really hard thing is like I have a 20-second quick change in this show where I have to get out of my wedding dress and into all new clothes and all new shoes and new hair, which is insane. I have tons of fantastic people backstage helping me, but it's really stressful. So like all those things and like the excitement and the adrenaline, so much to keep track of, like I really just think that the audience doesn't realize how much goes into this show so that it's a fun experience for them to watch.
So opening night is always one of those special moments in, in putting on a production. And when you show up to your call time, everybody's already there. You know, it's kind of impossible to be the first guy to call on opening night because everybody wants to get there and get ready and get in their zone before they have to go on stage. And so, you get to call and everybody's running around and there's this odd amount of confusion, but it's all so organized and so synchronized and so elevated by, you know, the nerves of having to go on in like 2 hours. And there's always like this. There's always this nervous aspect, and everything's so elevated because of it. And you get into your makeup and your costume, and you know, you just look in the mirror and you're like, you know, it's a little surreal. Like you know that you're gonna go on stage, but to think that you've gotten to the point is a little, you know, like, okay, wow. Oh gosh, and then warm-ups are like the worst part too, because that's like the last thing that you do before the show starts. And so, you know, everybody's sitting in their seats like shaking, doing warm-ups, and then Trent comes out with notes and gives his little pep talk, and you know, he goes places in 5 and everybody runs off. And I'm pretty lucky that I don't have to enter first, because you know, that's kind of the worst for me. But you know, I just had that extra time in the dressing room just to like sit down and like run through my lines in my head, even though I probably didn't need it. But it was an odd situation. Behind the door, you can hear the audience so well, way better than you can backstage. You can tell how much they're loving it because they just finished Money Money, and the audience goes insane, you know, because Celia just killed it out there. And then they start applauding. The transition music starts, and we open the door and walk down the aisle. And I have to like look at the ground so I'm not like looking at the audience. And then we get up stage, and you know, my whole thing is I look at the set and I'm like, oh, this is my building. And I'm just up there and I'm like, okay. And then I'm ready to go. But after the first scene, the nerves are just kind of gone. You know, like, it just turns into a process, and then it's not nervous about messing up. It's excited to get on stage to show more of the story. It's this excitement to show the audience what they haven't seen yet, and you know, share elements that are crucial to the story. So I mean, opening night is just so incredible because it's the first time you get to do that, and it's just, you really feel like you're sharing something, and you know, there's just nothing that can step up to that, really, I don't think. So, just naturally, I was stressing about Knowing Me, Knowing You, just because that was one of the more shaky numbers for me. And so, you know, I always kind of have to amp myself up a little bit before I go on stage for that one. And so I get up there and I sing the intro and it goes fine. And then the track cut out. I was like standing at the table, and you know, Reagan's already down by the stairs, and I'm like, you know, there's like probably a good 10 seconds. And so I stood up there and I was like, am I gonna continue to sing? Am I just gonna, you know, I don't know. And I didn't know what the background vocalists were gonna do either. And so then I was like, okay, I think I'm just gonna start moving forward in the song. And then they started the track over again. And I was like, breaking up is never easy, I know. And I was like, oh man, that was really weird. And I got off stage and I was like, what do you do? Literally nothing. You know, you just have to do it. And then it happened twice more. Another of those times while I was on stage. That was pretty funny.
So the audio cut out the weekend before
in one of my fellow actor Joe's song and literally fell to the floor laughing. I was like, I can't go out there. That's so embarrassing for him. I can't go out there. Like, I was freaking out. And I was giggling, and everyone in the green room was kind of giggling at my reaction. And karma totally came back and bit me in the butt.
There was a really major sound issue during Slipping Through My Fingers, which is a really tender and intimate song about getting ready for the wedding.
And all of a sudden, the track stops, and I'm like, oh no. Because I had already seen it happen the week before. I'm like, oh, I totally know what's happening right now.
One of the problems with using a track, once it cuts out, there's nothing.
And I used to be a competitive figure skater, and they used to always say, when your music stops, just keep skating without the music. So that's kind of what went through my head quickly. So I started singing the song a cappella, and I remember just thinking, please don't start the track again. I can do this whole thing a cappella, just please don't start the track again. So they don't start the track again. I heard it faintly, and then I think I was just singing loud enough that they were like, we'll keep the track down, don't worry.
So the first thing that I thought was, did I make a mistake? Did I just hit mute somehow by accident? Just thought for a second, I'm like, no, of course, there was no way that could have happened. My fingers were down here, they weren't muting anything. That's when the panic set in, because I knew it would be a bigger issue that it would take some time to fix.
So then we get to a part where I like hug Reagan, who played Sophie, and the audience starts like aggressively clapping for like a minute straight. And I'm like, the song's not over yet, like what are we? So Reagan and I were just standing there like looking at each other, holding hands. I was trying not to giggle. And I don't know if you'll include this because it might get her in trouble, but when I was singing it a cappella, I see my friend Hannah, who's like my best friend in the whole world, who was the assistant director, standing backstage with her phone up. And so in the audio, you can hear me give a little chuckle, but a lot of people thought I was crying.
And then I look over at the person who's running the tracks right next to me, Olivia, and see her run right back behind me and reset the Scarlett, which is how we get the sound from the computer into the soundboard, and then run back to the computer, start adjusting things, start trying things to get the sound back.
Winner Takes It All starts, the track is back. I was like, oh wow, I really have to make Winner Takes It All good because that was just a disaster. So I'm singing for like 2-3 minutes, and all of a sudden the track stops again. And Winner Takes It All is like the biggest song in the whole show. It really is supposed to be so good. And the track stops, and I did not even let it go by for over a second without singing. I just kept singing.
We eventually do get it fixed, but at that point, Celia has already started singing her song a cappella, and I don't think the audience really knew how to react. I'd even heard from some people, I didn't even realize it was supposed to cut out there, but of course we all realized, and after a while it started getting really awkward. And what we realized was that there was no natural place in that song that we could restart the sound, so the entire song just had to go on completely a cappella.
I felt like weirdly in control because I'm standing on this empty stage and it's just silent. No one is speaking, everyone's just listening to you sing, and it is like weirdly super empowering and a super cool feeling. I felt so in control. I was kind of giggling. I was like, well, joke's on the audience. They don't know I sing this a cappella in my bedroom all the time. Like, I'm fully prepared for this. It was probably one of the best I've sung it, just because I was so either fired up or angry or stressed or just a lot of adrenaline, but I just sang through it. And it was one of my favorite Minnetonka theater moments, to be honest. It was super special to me. And I got off the stage and like almost started weeping, crying. Not because I was like scared or sad. I was like, that was super funny. That was scary. That was stressful. That was also the coolest feeling I've ever had in my life.
The audience clapped for maybe a minute or so because they understood that the actors had just had to adjust to something really, really catastrophic and try to cover up for this technical issue that we still don't know what it was really caused by.
You know, there's something special about Mamma Mia. You know, when I first figured out that we were going to be doing Mamma Mia, I was like, really? You know, because I knew that it was there was the movie that was bad, and then the sequel that was bad, and I just thought it was one of those super popular mega musicals, sort of vapid, whatever. But as I got to the end of performances, it gained a bit of a new meaning, because the message is relatable, but I think even more so for a senior like me, where it's Sophie going away, and it's the parents resigning control over Sophie, and it's just this feeling of what can I do? I just have to move forward and kind of remember that it was good. And of course, it's not that final. Donna will see Sophie again. I will be back at Minnetonka Theater, but Donna's no longer the mom to a little girl, and I'm no longer a student. And there's just that element that kind of goes away, and it's pretty bittersweet. And I remember the final performance when Celia and Reagan sang "Slipping Through My Fingers," and I made sure to be backstage for that. Just because it's the most, I really, probably the most heartbreaking song of the show. And, it's not like anything terrible is happening, but it's just this confusion of every time I think I figure it out, something else comes along and changes it up. And, all of those things we had planned, we didn't get to all of them, but, it was still a great time. And the part that always gets me is when Donna says, "And a sense of guilt I can't deny." It's like, yeah. There's always gonna be a part that's like, well, I wish I would have done this or would have done that or whatever, but I feel like I was able to do everything that I could for Mamma Mia, and also for all the other shows that I've done here. And I felt like I've taken the most out of Minnetonka Theater that I can, and the most that I wanted to. I feel like I was able to shape the experience in a way that I liked, and so, ending Mamma Mia is bittersweet in itself, but it was just such a perfect show to have as my final senior show. Because it's so real in how it shows all of those emotions. But it's also really hopeful. And the show has a lot of love in it. And, I think it's really communicating to people that you don't need to not like something because it's changing. It's just gonna be different. And, I think that that's such a useful message for me going forward. I don't have to be, bitter over the things that I didn't like about Minnetonka Theater or my high school experience. I can just look back and say, man, I did what I wanted to do. And the fact that I was able to do that is an opportunity that not everybody gets. And I can just be so thankful that I got the opportunity to really enjoy working with things that I like. What's so great about Mamma Mia is that nothing really goes to plan, but it still feels like the best outcome, you know? And I just think that's so relatable, you know? I think it's so applicable to a lot of the seniors and a lot of the theater staff. And, you know, I definitely think that it was so, you know, profound, I guess, to the parents in the audience, so meaningful to the parents in the audience. You know, realizing that reality is kind of coming up quick, especially for, you know, the senior parents and the junior parents. So it's just been an absolute pleasure and a privilege to perform on this stage and to perform with all of these wonderful actors, and, you know, to build so many relationships and, you know, figure out who I want to be around this stage. You know, looking back on all of it, it's not always been easy, but I think that that's okay, you know, and I think that that's part of it. I would not be who I am now if everything was great all of the time. And, you know, I'm just so grateful that I got the opportunity to work with staff who understand the craft and who understand what it means to be an actor in high school, and just with people who are really good at what they're doing. You know, I am so aware that that is incredibly unusual, and you know, it's just, it's such a privilege to be in the spot that I am now. And I just want to thank everybody for allowing not only me, but for allowing everybody to have this opportunity.